It is a joy to be up here to sharing these three amazing people with each of you today, and such an honor just to be at the event with each of you like-minded, like-hearted, pro-life individuals. And what is unique about these three panelists is that they have amazing stories to share about their children. And we have an opportunity to listen to them and to learn from their stories. You know, when we at Texas Alliance for Life talk about the value of human life, we believe that that relates to every single human life, even those that society might deem as less worthy. The lives of babies diagnosed with disabilities or life-limiting conditions in the womb are just as precious, just as deserving of love, just as valuable and worthy of protection as any other baby. And it's wrong to discriminate against anyone born or unborn based upon a disability or diagnosis. Unfortunately, though, we live in a society that often sends a very different message. And that is why it's crucial that we, especially within the pro-life community, counter this by standing firmly for the value of every single life. This includes advocating for those who cannot advocate for themselves, and that definitely includes babies in the womb who receive fatal or life-limiting diagnoses. So today we will hear from these three people who have walked the path of becoming parents to babies diagnosed with disabilities or life-limiting diagnoses in the womb. And their stories are powerful testaments to the value of their children's lives and a call to each one of us to testify to the dignity and power of those lives, and to affirm the dignity and worth of every person regardless of their diagnosis. So I hope that as you listen, you'll be inspired to share their messages, helping others see the beauty and value in every single person, including babies facing unexpected health hurdles. So we often hear that nothing has the power to change a heart or a mind like a personal story. And so today we get a chance to hear your personal stories. And I've heard them, and I can say that they are soul-stirring and powerful. And I'm going to give each of our panelists today an opportunity to introduce themselves and their amazing children that they're here to speak about today. So Jacqueline, can you share your story with our audience?
Sure. So my name is Jacqueline Smith, and I'm from Dallas, and I work with the Catholic Pro-Life community there. But I am here to share a story about my daughter, Gemma Gianna Perpetua Smith. My husband and I have 12 children, 6 on earth and 6 in heaven. And Gemma was baby number 10, our 7th to be born. She was created in the image and likeness of God and loved from the very beginning. We had no complications with her pregnancy when we made the appointment and had our 20-week sono on October 1st of 2019. So everything was going just fine. And since sonos are a family affair in our large family, we pulled everybody from school. At that time, they were ages 1.5 to 12 years old, and we all went to the sauna together. It was a big day because we have 3 girls and 3 boys, and baby number 7 was the vibrator. But mood changed when the sauna took a little long, and the doctor came in and started to list off all the things that she thought was wrong with our baby that we were already very much in love with. The doctor said that she thought it was a chromosomal abnormality, probably trisomy 13 or trisomy 18, meaning there was an extra 13th or extra 18th chromosome. And her recommendations to us were termination or comfort care. Now, since I work in the pro-life movement, I thought, oh, she doesn't know what I do for a living. I took a deep breath and I said, ma'am, in our family, we give birth to our babies, and we don't know enough about this baby yet to discuss comfort care. But she went on, and she told us how dire the situation was, and she talked about the tests that would need to be done, and again, she recommended a termination of comfort care, with my 6 kids and husband in the room, mind you. And I said, ma'am, in our family, we give birth to our babies, and we're not ready to discuss comfort care. My husband, he's 6'5", he comes up and he says, we don't kill our kids. Tests later confirmed that she did indeed have an extra 18th chromosome, trisomy 18. But we all in this room understand that every child is a gift from God. And so an extra chromosome just means an extra special gift. And so we got the help of a group called Be Not Afraid. They're an organization that walks with families that have received a life-limiting diagnosis, and they help us to carry to term. We made a birth plan, we found life-affirming care, and we discussed the options and realities that were going to be part of the journey. This relationship gave us the courage to ask the questions we needed to ask, to advocate for Gemma's care, and to seek second opinions when we thought there was discrimination. We made it to 37 and a half weeks. Gemma was born by emergency C-section on January 1st, 2020, and she was a beautiful baby, 4 pounds, 10 ounces. She was baptized by her daddy in the operating room, stabilized by our medical team, and then later our Byzantine priest came and gave her the sacraments of First Communion, confirmation, and the anointing of the sick. In this time, she was able to be visited by family, and we were able to say hello and then say goodbye. She became a saint on February 1st, 2020. I have no regrets. Because I was just being the mom I was called to be for her, and an abortion would have shortened the life and the time we had with her. I just want all parents to know that they can choose life, there's a message of hope, and there are people willing to help. Thank you. I don't know about you guys, but my heart already feels very raw, and I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now. And we've only heard one story. Robin, I'd like to go to you now. Will you share about your beautiful daughter with our attendees today?
Yeah, so in 2001, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and everything was going great. No complications, no morning sickness or anything, and she wanted to have a home birth. And I was like, hang on, let's make sure everything's okay first. And so we went in for a sonogram. We went to Austin Community College because they were free and we were poor. And they kept going in and out of the room and we couldn't figure out what was going on. Finally, they said, we need to send you to a specialist. This was at 30 weeks of pregnancy. And so we went across town over here and saw one of the best doctors in Austin. And he didn't even give us a diagnosis in the sonogram room. He took us to the back where his actual office was and said that your daughter has severe hydrocephalus. We cannot even really see her brain at all. It's just fluid. And so, then he went down the list of what would happen when she was born and all the disabilities. She'll be blind and deaf and not be able to do anything. You can have a scheduled C-section at 38 weeks, or you can go to Kansas for a late-term abortion. And it took us about 10 seconds to say, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to have this baby. And I have to say, from that point forward, he was very supportive. But there was a geneticist in the office that was awful. And she was like, your daughter is probably going to get sexually abused at school, and just gave us all these horrible things to think about. And then our daughter was born November 24th, 2001. And when she was born, she was obviously very physically different. Her head was very large from all the fluid. And they did an MRI and said the condition is actually worse than we thought. It's not just fluid, but the brain that is there is severely deformed, and they gave us 6 months for her to live. Take her home and enjoy her while you have her. And one of the doctors there at the NICU said she's not going to have a meaningful life, and just tough things. Well, as you can see in the picture, she's 22 years old, and she has a very meaningful life. She's a happy young lady. That's one of her caregivers that helps us from time to time. Kennedy is our daughter. She's 22. She loves to laugh. She loves rap music. She loves watching TV. She loves being a part of our family. And as a pastor, she has been my seminary. We started our church 21 years ago. It was her life that taught me who Jesus is, his love for us. There was a point when we were praying and praying and praying for her to be healed after she was born. And finally God really spoke to me and said, I love her the way she is. And I realized that I had been trying so hard to change her that I didn't love her for who she was. And then it dawned on me, wow, if God loves her the way she is, then he loves me the way I am. And before I'm a good pastor or a good husband or a good dad, he loves me. And so her life has deeply impacted our whole view of God and built, honestly, the ministry that we have today.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And what a beautiful testimony to how loved we are, just as we are. That's powerful. Well, Melanie, I have an opportunity to go, even though I've known you for many years, decades, at least two, and I had the privilege of knowing Anna and seeing her pictures. When I put together the slides, got me. But I'm going to let you tell her story.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I am married to Scott, who's here in the front, and we have 4 beautiful children, Morgan, Anna, Sarah, and Clay. And my story actually begins with my first pregnancy with Morgan, my oldest. I was very young, and I didn't know what to expect with prenatal care, so I just, I did everything the doctor told me to do. They do the standard alpha fetoprotein test, AFP for short, during the early first trimester, and that is to detect just some of the disabilities that they can see that early on. And when they performed that test with Morgan, it came back saying that she possibly had Down syndrome. So this meant that I had options, obviously, and we know that they consider abortion one of those options, to which I was pro-life even then, and knew that that was not an option for me. So the doctor ordered an ultrasound to look closer at the baby, and upon measuring her, it was discovered that her gestational age was actually miscalculated. So once they corrected her gestational age, it turned out that she did not in fact have Down syndrome. She was born full-term, healthy, beautiful baby girl. So fast forward to my pregnancy with Anna, I remembered that AFP test. I remembered the unnecessary stress, fear, and anxiety that it created in me when I was a young mom, knowing that I wanted to have my baby Morgan. And I decided to decline that test with Anna. So the doctor gave me the option, and I said, I don't see the point, because regardless, I know that I'm going to have this baby, and I'd rather be happy this pregnancy and not fearful. Doctors have a responsibility. They do have to prepare us for the worst case scenario. So I just felt that that was not something that I even wanted to deal with. So on June 27th, 2001, my beautiful baby girl, Anna Michelle Kaiser, was born and appeared to be completely healthy. But within a few hours, she started to show signs that something was seriously wrong. And because we did not do testing, we did not know prior to her birth. She was placed in the NICU, where she spent 21 days. And upon release, we were sent home with a baby that we really didn't know what was wrong with. They gave us a list of diagnoses. She had a ton of medications, and she was attached to an apnea monitor 24/7 because she liked to stop breathing on us. So we saw every type of specialist known to man, and none could give us the answers that we needed. Finally, at 4 months old, she started having grand mal seizures. We took her to the NICU, or to the ER again, and requested that they bring in whatever doctor we had not yet seen. They brought in a pediatric genetics specialist who performed the necessary tests, and we found our diagnosis. Anna was diagnosed with monosomy 1p36. So instead of having an extra chromosome, she was missing a segment of her chromosome number 1. Just a small piece of genetic material was not there. The geneticists really couldn't tell us a lot. 2001, the internet was limited. She said we would be lucky if she lived to age 5, take her home, enjoy her. We took her home and we made the best of it. I'm an optimist, so I said, you know what? If she's going to be disabled, she's going to be the cutest little disabled girl in all the world. So we bought every color bows and we dressed her up like a living baby doll every single day. Her life was hard. She had many challenges. She was very severely handicapped. Very developmentally delayed, but she was happy, and despite her challenges, she was always smiling and giggling when she wasn't crying. We had 2 other children after her, our daughter Sarah and our son Clay. And the thing that I admire most about my other 3 children is that they treated Anna like any other sibling, and honestly, she appreciated that. They didn't baby her, and I think she liked that. And we just enjoyed her. And when they got involved in activities, Anna got involved in activities too. She did special needs cheerleading. She did special needs baseball. And she was a participant in the Texas Angels pageant, which is a pageant for children who are disabled. And most importantly, I would like to report that she defied that doctor's diagnosis and the prediction that we would be lucky if she lived to age 5. She lived to age 18. And I went home to be with the Lord on July 30th, 2019. And in the 5 years since she's passed, I've had a lot of time to reflect on her life. And the thing that I think stands out to me most is that my faith in God grew like I cannot explain. And in the Bible, in James 1:2, it says that we should consider it pure joy when we face trials of many kinds. For the testing of our faith produces perseverance. And I can tell you that the testing of my faith created a perseverance in me that I cannot describe. And honestly, my belief, this is the last thing I'd like to say, is that God created a special gift to people with children with disabilities.
That's yes. And not just for what you shared, but for who you are. As a mom, I remember exactly where I was when I got the news that Anna passed away. We were on vacation in California, and I just couldn't help but reflect on how her life has touched mine, and how knowing her has just impacted and shaped for me what it is to see somebody mother a family so well, especially a family where you have someone as beautiful as Anna as a part of it. And she did always look like a doll. Always. I mean, she dressed better than me. I would love to segue now. You guys really did a phenomenal job of sharing your stories, sharing your initial reactions when you got the news, sharing what the medical professionals recommended or didn't recommend in some cases, the horrific geneticist that was in the room. I hate that you guys had to walk through that, and I felt my little justice anger flare. And it's just crazy to me that people would recommend abortion for all the potential what-if scenarios that may never happen. And we see that happen so often in society. What I do want to ask you, Robin, is what kind of support did you receive from family, friends, and community during the pregnancy of your wife and then after the birth of your child?
Yeah, one of the things that people say is that there's no support for people like this. And I'm a big advocate of the local church. I believe that the government is not the hope of the world. I believe that the church is the hope of the world. And we received that benefit. When she was in the hospital delivering Kennedy, there was 50 people in the waiting room waiting for us. With food, praying, hanging out, laughing, just a celebration of community. And then over the last 22 years, we've had people continually supporting us through our family and our blood family and our church family that have continually provided meals, giving us respite care so we can go out, go on vacation. We have 2 sons that are 18 and 20. And so we've really tried to create a culture with them, a family, and we always wanted to not allow this condition to define our family. And so it has been the community that has helped us with all these very practical things.
So So it's interesting to hear how her life enriched your lives by bringing people around you that wanted to be a part of helping your family. And I think it's important to note that there are people who want to be actively involved in a variety of ways, big ways, small ways, but one of the most significant ways perhaps is being the personal help for a family that has a child with a disability. And so I love that people did just jump in with you and stayed on the journey with you.
One quick little add-on to that is, in the early days, it was our parents primarily, grandparents. But the bigger she gets, the older she gets, and the older they get, that's difficult.
Yeah.
What's been really awesome lately is to see the younger generation, college-age students in our area in Texas State come and help us that are trying to really step in.
That's amazing. I do know some young kids, I say young kids, teens, that love to help out and support their disability community in their school and the special ed classes that are around them. And so it shows the heart of the upcoming generation, and I think that's a good sign. How about you, Melanie? Did you have good support from your family and friends?
I had the most support from my church family also. We were blessed with just a community of people that rallied around us and always came through for us. Also, believe it or not, the government tells you there's no help, but you do get help if you jump through loopholes, and we were very fortunate to have some amazing caregivers through the years who just loved Anna like their own. And so, yeah, we had a lot of help.
So your journey with Gemma is a little bit different because you got to enjoy her for a lot less time. But I know that community is still a big part of your story. Can you share about that?
Great. So, being the not so shy people that we are, we went straight to Facebook, started a Facebook page for her, but then and shared her story that way so that we could just get everybody involved in praying for her. We're Catholic, so I think we said 1 million novenas, and I really just involved everybody in being a part of her journey because we needed that support, that prayer support, to make sure that we had that strength. And Being Not Afraid was a huge part of our journey because they really walked us through creating her birth plan so that we were ready. And I did go into early labor twice, and my first statement to her was, wheeling me down the hall was, "Have you read the birth plan? It's on the record." So I checked my record because it clearly explained that Dad was the baptizer in the room and the whole, process that we had agreed upon. And our church and school community were awesome too, because we go to Catholic schools, so all the kids were in the same school, and so they came together, hosted the rosary. Our church did the funeral, and everyone was just there by our side. And that made it possible, and kind of enjoyed that somebody cleaned my house while I was at the hospital. That was really awesome, so shout out to them. But it's those practical things, those little things that you might not think about. I've seen it on Facebook, and it's true. The grief groceries, where the groceries show up at your house when someone has had a funeral or a loss. Those things are so important. Those little supports are what make it possible to step through all these challenges.
So, for those who don't know, what is Be Not Afraid, just in a nutshell?
Right. So Be Not Afraid is an organization that, at the time that we were pregnant with Gemma, they were personally creating partnerships and walking with those families. Now they train other organizations to do that. But their model is to walk with the family and to carry them through that process from diagnosis to delivery. And then they are there for a year after delivery to help them through those challenges, because then typically there's other resources available upon birth that can walk them further in the journey. And for us, that was really important because we knew it was a life-limiting diagnosis. So they also walked us through how to handle the funeral arrangements. When they were my mama bear when I needed Gemma got to stay in my room for 2 days with a thing called a cuddle cot that keeps her body cool. And so we got to bond with her, which was our only time with her. And when they weren't going to bring her to my room, I called up my therapist at Be Not Afraid, and that person called to the hospital, and Gemma was in my room. So, and it's just because I don't blame the hospital. They don't get deaths often in the NICU or in the delivery area. So they're all just trying to deal with the same situation. But you need that advocate for you on your side. And so they reviewed that whole process, and they were amazing.
So there are a lot of support organizations out there to support families with disabilities, and this is just one amazing one. We have a website page that we put together that lists this organization as well as others. And so if you know families that need support and they may not know where to turn, or if you don't know what's out there, I invite you to go to TexasOnlineInsure.org, and you can look at that page and see that there are so many great groups out there who want to support and advocate for families who face a life-limiting diagnosis or disability diagnosis and journey with them, because we do need that support, especially when we don't know what we're walking through because we've never walked through it before. And so that's very necessary and needed. Now, Melanie, let me ask you, why do you believe it's important to protect the lives of unborn children with disabilities or life-limiting diagnoses or fatal illnesses in the womb?
Number one, we are not God. I think the most important thing that we need to acknowledge is that God creates life, and God creates every life. And in the book of John, Jesus tells the disciples when they're asking him questions about a man born blind, they ask him, why is he born blind? Is this the result of his parents' sin or his sin? And Jesus replies and says, no, it's so that the works of God may be displayed. And so as soon as we start to put just a rating, I guess, for lack of a better word, maybe a score on a human life, and we decide that certain lives matter more than others, when do we draw the line? It's a slippery slope, and we've seen it in other countries. We've seen in China, little baby girls are discarded because they put a higher commodity on baby boys. We've seen in other third world countries where children with disabilities are discarded on the side of the road. I have a friend here in the crowd who adopted a precious little girl from India. She's being given life now because someone loved her and cared for her. And I just think that it's important for us to remember, number one, that God puts us here, God calls us home. Psalm 139 says that He numbers all the days of our life before we breathe our first breath. So it's His decision when we are called home.
How about you, Robin? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything she's saying. When that doctor told us that she would not have a meaningful life, it really made me think, well, what would make her meaningful? She could walk, would that make her meaningful? Or she could talk, or she could go to school, at what point do we deem her good or right or pretty? And it really made us go to God and say, Lord, you have the complete authority to determine this, not a person, not a human. And we just began to see in her disability incredible meaningfulness and a rich wholeness. On the surface of her life, she looks very broken, but she's actually more whole than almost anyone I know because of the purity and the innocence that she exudes just by being in a room. And there's times that we're in her room and she'll be looking up and she'll just start smiling at the sky, at the roof, and we're like, she's seeing angels. Like there's something she sees that we don't see, and just being in that moment. I'll have a bad day. I'll go in her room and she's smiling, or go in there in the morning and she's been in her bed all night. She can't move herself. She's waiting for us to get in there. She's awake. And I don't know how long she's been awake, but I go in there and she's smiling. And I just think, you have no reason to smile from the context of a normal person. So those are just a few little samples of how these people who have seemingly no ability to function in a normal way have profound messages of meaningfulness and of value that that doctor had no clue about. And I want to find that doctor. I want to lay hands on the doctor. A biblical way.
We do have that guy going. That was very well said, and I've never thought of it in that context before. And just so you know, I might steal it in some communication at some point. But who decides when life is meaningful? Who sets the criteria for that? I've never thought of it exactly that way. And that's such a slippery slope because the goalposts can always move on what determines a meaningful life. All lives are meaningful, and I don't think I've ever heard it articulated that well. That was very, very well said. How about you, Jacqueline? What would you add?
So, when I will do talks, I'll talk about first Genesis, where it talks about we're created in the image and likeness of God. And if God is perfection and God is love, then He's all of us, every single human being, because God makes no mistakes. So, including all of our children, every child out there, no matter diagnosis, is a reflection of love, is a reflection of perfection. And our limited human brains cannot contemplate that perfection, right? But that perfection is there. And in adoration, it came to me that, to contemplate the parable of the vineyard, where the owner of the vineyard goes out and he gets workers in the morning, and he goes out later, and then he goes out and he keeps getting workers throughout the day. And at the end of the day, he pays them all the same. And our limited human brains go, well, that's not right, right? But God is not limited by our little human brains. And so He's given the same value and worth to every single worker, and all they had to do was be there because they're valuable. And so it doesn't matter how long we're in the vineyard. We are loved by God and given the same value. It doesn't matter how long we're in the vineyard.
And you've given me a totally different context to see that in. And so I will definitely take that with me. So my last question for each of you, and I'm going to give you 1 minute each to answer it, so then you can just pass the mic, is what message would you like to send medical professionals and society about the value of children with life-limiting or fatal diagnoses? We'll start with you since you have the mic, and then we'll pass it.
Okay, 1 minute. Well, in that moment when you receive the diagnosis, it's a traumatic moment. You're truly going through trauma. And so I would just ask them to give us time, right? Let us process this. You have to grieve the pregnancy that you thought you had because you thought everything was healthy and happy. And then you have to learn to accept and love the child that you now know who they are and know more about. So give us time. Offer hope, because in that sonogram room, you're given the options of killing our baby or letting our baby die. Hope was not in the mix. And so just give us time, give us hope, and lean into the moment and allow love and God to work His miracles.
So we definitely need to take a beat and build margin in for people to have a moment of humanity. Right. They're not just checking the box, they're not just moving to the next appointment, but to remember these are real people who are receiving a devastating diagnosis that was unexpected, and it is traumatic. I can't imagine how traumatic that would be. I know you want to say something.
But right, just it is a traumatic moment. You do have to lean into it, and they do have a lot of boxes they have to check. But yeah, we need that moment to be human, to remind ourselves that it's okay to choose life. And one thing that I really regretted was that the reason I feel like I knew what to do was because I was involved in the pro-life movement. I don't regret being in the movement, but I regret that others didn't know who to call or text. But I had to know people to find the options and the help. So just give us the moment, give us some hope, and then make sure to offer the help.
That's good. How about you, Melanie?
I would say to the medical professionals, just be sensitive. You may not share our views. I know there are pro-life doctors, and I know there are also pro-abortion doctors out there. But just be sensitive to the family's stance and where they stand with that. Allow them the respect and the freedom to make that decision on their own. I understand that you have to cover yourselves, and so you have to prepare people for the worst case scenario. But I would say that also just give them, like Jacqueline said, just give them that space and that respect, because ultimately the parents are making the decision, and it's between them and God. And I just think that they need to know that they need to be empowered to make that decision.
And Robin, can you add to yours? We've discussed what we would like for medical professionals to know. And I know that's definitely true of the geneticists you encountered. But what about society when it comes to your daughter's life and the value of it?
Well, for the medical professionals, I think they are in a place where they feel like they have to have the answers and know everything. And I would try to find a Christ-like way to say, humble yourself. You don't have to know everything. That there is other options out there than what you studied or read about. We've had 2 doctors. I wrote a book a few years ago, and the doctor that did offer the abortion option ordered my book and I think read it. I don't know what he did with it, but I saw his name come across the order thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, Eric, I think this is the doctor.
Wow.
And it turned out it was. So I'd give him my book probably to read. But I think that position is a very honored position. They are very knowledgeable. They are very experienced. We have some incredible doctors, but they just have air about them that they feel like they have to have that certain identity of knowing everything, being in that place of knowledge, and just to say, you know what, you can open your mind to other possibilities that it may not be terrible.
And how about society?
We just try to keep educating people that tough news is not the end, that Jesus is better. It is very easy if you don't have Jesus in your life to look at something and be in despair, and that's completely understandable. And so we just really use this story of our daughters to preach the gospel, the good news of Jesus, because we would not be here today if it wasn't for His grace and His mercy for us. Like we didn't overcome 22 years of special needs a child by just grit and hard work and being tough. It took the gospel of Jesus in our life, transforming us, strengthening us, the power of the Holy Spirit, empowering us. So, honestly, we use it as a platform to share the gospel.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot, and then we're going to go to Q&A. So many people who respond to what we put on social media are not Christians. And oftentimes when I do interviews, I will steer clear. I say oftentimes. Every interview I do, I steer clear of my faith. Because the second I say anything about my faith to a non-Christian reporter or wherever I'm, dialoguing with people, the door closes and they say she only believes in life because of her faith. Well, we know that science says life believes at conception. So how does your daughter's life speak to people who don't believe in God? And what do you want to communicate to them specifically about the value of her life? How would you communicate that in a way that they would hear it?
Well, she's an example that we live in a very broken world, that sin has contaminated everything, and it makes many of us, makes all of us broken in some way. And, most of us in the room are good at putting on nice clothes and covering up the stuff. She can't do that. It's very exposed. But it's no different, really. So, her life is very, very broken. But at the same time, she reveals to us the goodness of God. And our Savior, Jesus, was not one that would detach himself from that brokenness. He's the one that came and was participating in it and even gave his life and died broken for us. So he's our Savior, Jesus, is a demonstration of how that ugliness and that sin is not going to win.
Right.
But there's going to be a day when it all comes to full restoration.
Yes. Okay, so before we go to Q&A, just to tie that off with a nice bow, I would say the Bible says that the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim his wonder. People see God in things when they may not even recognize who God is. And I believe that is true of your daughter and Anna while she was here, and even of Gemma in the brief time that she was here. Is there's a beauty in the simplicity and the just innocence of these children and the way that they just smile and seem to take in life. And so I think there's a high value to every single person wherever they fall on their journey. And so that being said, I wanted to open up now to a Q&A. Joe, Dr. Foreman is walking around with a mic. If you have a question, just raise your hand and he'll find his way to you. And while he's doing that, Robin, you brought a couple of books today, right? So afterwards, you'll have an opportunity to go and get a book from Robin if you're interested. And I see Kale has a question back here. In the very back area.
I'm holding the mic. He didn't want to give me the mic. Well, first off, I need to compliment Joe and Amy and the panel members. This is absolutely awesome. You guys are and I think the issue for me is I'm so humbled that you humbled yourself to give us this information. Because my question to you is, and maybe you've already answered this, but how do we, as just regular people, take what you have done today and apply that in our lives? Thank you.
I'll answer that. I think share our stories. Like Amy said at the beginning, stories are powerful. And you just take the stories that you've heard and you share them. In Revelations 12:8, I believe, it says that the enemy is defeated by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies. So the testimonies that you hear of other people, share them. Share those stories because it brings a humanity to them, and we're no longer just a statistic. We are an actual person.
My name is Terry Brace, and I'm the ultrasound technologist at Radiance Women's Center. Thank you for your support. I am proud to sit next to my daughter, Dakota. Much like your story about the testing when she was in my womb. But I'm proud to say that we chose life for her, and she is a pro-life pediatric nurse practitioner specializing in genetics. To TAL Luncheon for Life. She had just moved to Austin. And I said, hey, I think that you might want to hear some of this stuff. So I've seen her taking lots of notes. And I'm speaking on your behalf now because that's what mommies do. She's encountered a lot. She called me last week. I'm going to tell on you. She called me last week and she said, Mommy, products of conception. Products of conception is a terminology that people use in my industry, and it's a real thing. I said, I know. It's a terrible thing. She said, how do we as pro-life physicians and practitioners counter that that seemingly technological word for nothing, for a baby? And I'm proud to say that Ellie responded. She said, do you mean baby? To the other practitioners, and had to have that conversation. But it's a difficult world out there in the medical field. We have to really push hard. One of the answers I have for the gentleman back there is do sign up for organizations that support pro-life. So if you're an attorney, look for Attorneys for Life. If you are a secretary, look up the organization anymore, but if you're an administrator, look for Administrators for Life. There are organizations for every professional field. If you're a teacher and an educator, look for those organizations that are pro-life and sign up for them. Pay the dues. It's an investment in the future of all of our families.
Right, and for your daughter who's going into sonography, I would really recommend the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs. They have an amazing conference, and they are really good. They have a whole list of medical terminology that you can use. So when they say this, you say that. And they're trying to normalize the medical terminology that's used across the board. So they are a great resource. And if you are Catholic, I don't know, but there's a Catholic medical guild, and they have different regions. Join them. If you're not Catholic, join them because they'll put you with like-minded, pro-life-minded medical professionals in your area.
This will be the last question.
Hi, I'm Michelle Lopez, and thank y'all for sharing. What an inspiring message. And I work a lot with young people. I've been in
universities for a number of years. And so I love the message of hope. And I just wonder, thinking about your other children, what are the messages that they share with their friends? What are the messages they're going to share moving forward? Growing up, I had a brother who was missing mechanism, scoliosis, all of these things, but we never treated him any differently. I don't see him. Friends would ask me, what's up with his neck? What's up with him? I don't see that. So I'm just curious, what do you think your children are going to say? How are they going to carry this message forward?
I'd love to answer that. My oldest daughter, Morgan, turns 30 this year, and it's just watching her sister Anna grow up, obviously taught her, that we valued life. And Morgan actually has 3 children of her own now. We were grandparents. Her twins were high-risk twins. They were called monodi. They shared a placenta, which means they shared one food source. So she was given a very grim, diagnosis and prognosis that there was a possibility one baby would receive all of the nutrients during the pregnancy and the other baby would die. Well, because Morgan grew up in the house with Anna, she said, no, my babies will live. She named those babies. She laid her hands on her stomach every day and she prayed over those babies. It was Ezra here and Micah here. And I'm happy to report that those twins were born within 6 ounces of one another. They were both very large twins. She had them naturally with no drugs also. So I'm just happy to say that they're watching us and, we have those hard conversations. We had the conversations. They knew that Anna could die. They knew that, they would most likely outlive their sister. So we had to have those hard conversations. And also my daughter, Sarah, she's currently a junior in college and she's studying physical therapy. They spent lots of hours in therapy. So it definitely has made an impact on them in a way, and we're watching them now carry the message forward in their own unique ways.
Do you two have anything to quickly add to that?
Just closing thought, kind of summary about all those questions. I think that people that are not pro-life are trying to dehumanize this situation and make it more weird, more dangerous, more scary. What we need to do is make it more human and make it more normal and okay and accepting. And so our kids, my kids are younger than our daughter, so that's all they've known is their dog is their sister. And so they picked on her and, it was all the normal sibling things and, would complain, why does she get a TV in her room? We don't get a TV in our room. And we've seen them in school, be advocates for people with special needs. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I think it's because they're in that environment and we just need more people to be okay, ask questions. If you're in an environment where you see someone with special needs, it's okay to go to them, approach them, talk to them, ask questions. We see kids do that, like at the playground. Why does she not walk? Oh, her brain was not formed. Oh, okay, and they just run off. It's fine.
And so how we get older and we stop approaching them, very mindful. That communicates value, absolutely. Well, I want to thank each of you. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. And I know that all of us have a lot to think about and to process about what we've heard today. And I do hope that we will all carry it forward and share your stories. I know we for sure will online, but just each of us in conversations and interactions will be more mindful and certain of it. So thank you. Thank you for being here.